or a summer employee a contract. That's still an engagement. I still think that they should have some understanding of how things roll and function. Like part-time and seasonal staff can still, they're less of a liability because they're just less formal in terms of how they're employed, but they still fall under the same regulations. So I would want a contract in place for them still, just to protect yourself. And then you can just have it with an end date, and all the terms of their employment are in there. I still would. Yeah.
You had mentioned earlier, employees value training and education. So when you have a scenario where an employee gets training or education, you have a significant amount of dollars involved in that. How do you manage that scenario where now you've got an investment in that employee, and you don't want to have a scenario where you spent thousands of dollars in education and training, and 6 months later they go to another job? How do you balance that with, whether it's condition of employment and provide that, you've got to provide service or something like that?
Yeah, so if you hire someone and you send them on expensive training, there's contracts you can put in place with them where if they stay for, let's say they stay for 2 years after the training, then their debt is repaid. If they stay only for 1 year, they owe 50%. If they stay for 6 months, they owe 100%. You can have those contracts with employees that they can sign, that they're basically in a deal with you, that you're paying for this, but I'm committing to stick around and put that training to use. And you can do that, and I've certainly seen people collect money on it. You may decide, like if they're close to 2 years and it's been a great 2 years, you can tell them they don't owe anything. You have the power to do that. But I do think those are a good idea if it's a substantial amount of money. I have seen employers try to do it on like $200. Wouldn't suggest that, right? But when they're more expensive, I agree. I think that's a good idea.
Would you have to sue the employee then?
So yeah, basically.
And you got to try and collect?
It's small claims, yeah. And so what often happens is employers can make the choice to go small claims, or they can request an agreement with the employee where they're paid over time. And if the employee is not doing it and they're not paying their share, you do have to small claims court, go after them and see if you can get something back. Probably it's not worth it. But what it does when you put those things in place is it sets up an expectation. They go into it understanding this isn't free. I'm not just going to be able to dip out of here, but I've made another commitment. And it's just less likely that they'll sign it and that they'll, do something against your contract because they know that there'll be repercussions, right? It's like non-compete clauses. Have you guys know non-compete clauses when you hire someone? They basically don't work, but they scare people enough into being like, all right, I can't because I signed something, right? It's almost like that. You just let them know this is in place and I'm gonna collect my money from you, and they go into it with a different mindset. Good question. Anything else? Okay, awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. And